Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline. This week, we've got some difficult stuff to talk about to start with. Could be considered sensitive in some ways. I didn't think about that at the time of recording, but it certainly could be sensitive. So just go careful there. Dialing in the diet, up in the steps, and the third thing rule. Stay tuned for that. TV, movies, plenty of games, and VR to finish. All right here. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And as you know by now, if you've listened before, if you share the podcast around, we'll love you forever. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline. Hello! How you doing? I've had to not quite surprise myself with this one, but just press the record button and get going because, it is getting late, kids. Late in the day. For some of us, it's getting late in life. That's a different story, one I'm sure we'll cover next week. How is everybody? Are we well? In fact, I'm going to grab a cloth, which sounds weird. But I'm going to put it here because I get sweaty elbow, and that is probably enough said about that. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all having a good week and or good life. If you're not, give me a shout. Send me an email. Send me something on social media. Say, hey, not having the best time. Or just say, hey. And I'll know. And I'll reach out. Reach out and touch me. Absolutely one of those weeks where I looked at the list earlier today and I went, fuck. Is that what's happened in the last week? Somebody said to me today, a friend of mine from school said to me today, how are you doing? And it seemed a bit weird, and I knew that I didn't have, long to chat. And I was like, I feel like I'm in a blender that someone keeps turning on. I was like, it's just a constant whirlwind. I was like, you come to work, and work is fucking mental. And then you walk out of work, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's fucking mental out here as well. So, to look at what happened a week ago, I'm like, that's insanity. But enough of that. I have lots of stuff to talk about from the week, which actually isn't all that much stuff to talk about. Some TV, some movie, a lot of games, apparently. That's not strictly true. I've got one game I want to talk a lot about, and then I've got 2 or 3 other games that I will probably gloss over quite quickly. Yes, I'm drinking a bottle of drink. That is fizzy. Also known as the podcast ruin. Anyway. Last Tuesday, so day after doing last week's podcast, which is why it's first on the list, and so long ago now. Fuck. This one might be a bit of a tough one, honestly. I will do this one as best I can, because so far through the week I had to acknowledge that I think I was maybe a little bit more affected by it than I thought. Last Tuesday, dropped my youngest daughter off at school, and set off on my run. Now, my run starts with a walk. I consider it my warm-up. After my run this morning, I've started wondering whether maybe it's not needed, but there's probably a lot more mechanics involved in that than I probably should go through right now, and probably need to look at in a different way at a later date. So, I start my run with a walk. Sounds weird, but hey. And I walk from my daughter's school and I walk up to a main road. And it's very much a main road in the sense that, in a weird way, it's a 40 mile an hour road. But what's round it, in a way, is residential. So it's weird to have a 40 mile an hour road there. However, what's the other side is fields, and it's a main road. So, 40 mile an hour. I get to the top of the street, I turn, and as I go around the corner, at the point in time that I start my run, I go, but, that's my feet touching the floor, and that's the number of times my feet touch the floor. But, before I heard screaming and a noise. Now, at the moment, I'm using the bone conducting earphones, so that allows for sound to go in, but it also allows for ambient noise. Another long story for why I've gone that route, but that's not important right now. So I can hear everything as well as what I'm listening to. And I heard a noise and this screaming, and I was like, hey, if you don't like the running, look away. You know, that joke. Probably fairly old at this point in time, but anyway. That time of day, in that situation, in that scenario, screaming, probably not a good sign. I turned round to see the sight that nobody wants to see, which was, the first thing I saw was a bike in the middle of the road. The second thing I saw was a child in the middle of the road, and the third thing I saw was a car. And I think in those scenarios, in those situations, it's where your brain goes to first. My brain went to, that's a silly place to have those items. You don't want a bike or a child in the middle of the road where there's a car. And then the part of my brain that actually can form thought went, think about what you've just heard, dickhead. The sound was probably the sound of a car hitting a child, and the scream was probably the thing that came after it. And I went, oh. And there was another child involved, and the child was then crying and screaming and not having a good time. And there were, what you quickly sort of realise is there's probably some sort of parent situation. There's a person getting out of a car. There are other cars stopping. There's people starting to gather and rush, and you're shocked by what you're seeing, but then there's the part of you like, should I do something? But then you don't. For me, I was like, I don't want to be an obstruction to this situation. I'm probably further away than the closest person to this situation. There was people at a bus stop, so on and so forth. Then I didn't want to be the person who's just stood gawping, so I was like, okay. There are people moving the bike, there's people moving the child, there's people taking care of the other child, there's people talking to people that were there. I start recognising people. I'm like, there's somebody there that I recognise, somebody there I recognise, somebody drove past that I recognise. I'm like, okay, this is a little bit too close to home in more ways than one. I'm like, what the fuck? So I start backing away because I'm like, the last thing this situation needs is more people. There was, 30 people there at this point in time. Cars, nobody could get past, get round. Cars were stopped. It was a bad situation. When they moved the child, I'm thinking in hindsight they probably shouldn't have done. Thinking about like your accident protocol, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to move people in case of certain broken bones. But I'm like, that child is not moving. Like initially I was like, I thought the child was moving. And then I was like, that child's not moving. So I did the thing that I think probably a lot of people would do in that situation. I had to text Leanne. I was like, kid's just been hit by a car. And sort of left basically working on the principle. There is nothing I can offer to this situation other than another body in the way. How's that? This is a morning where my youngest daughter has taken the option to not even say bye to me when I've dropped her off at school, which is one of those I often sort of joke about. Oh, you never said bye to me this morning, or oh, my daughter decided not to say bye to me this morning again. But it's those things, it's times like that where you're like, you just never know. And then you've got the fact that, like, at that point in time, I had a child that was at home, but I wasn't at home. And then I've got another child that's at school. And then I've got another child that's, at that moment in time, a million miles away. And you just want to hug your children. And you just want to be able to say, that you love them and you care for them and all of that. Next thing, school's sending messages and emails and stuff and making people aware there's been an incident. And then by the end of the day, it turned out that it was a child from my daughter's school. And it turned out that it was a child from my daughter's class. My daughter was like, yeah, he's been in hospital all day and all this and then it turned out that he's okay, but he's there's some broken bones and things like that, and you just like it's just a bad time and a bad experience and a bad everything, basically bad all around. But for days I was just like, that poor child and that family, and like the kids were doing like cards for them, and just like I honestly thought when they sent the message in the afternoon to say that the child was okay, I honestly thought that the message they were going to send was going to be a different message from what I'd sort of seen, and I was like, well, you've got to count your blessings, I guess. So, yeah, just a fairly bad time of things there. How do you follow up something like that? How do you follow up a conversation like that? Well, by talking about yourself, obviously. So I been trying hard with the diet. Dialed in the diet to the level where on a day that I was still eating, I managed to lose 2 pounds. Looking at my weight for the last few weeks, I've managed to lose £1 a week, which is in the healthy range. And last week was my official first week of eating. The day I managed to lose 2 pounds was the Wednesday, and what I basically did was I cheated by having a very low calorie day, which meant that I lost weight because Wednesday is a very busy day. I lost weight and that was good. It was comforting. So down 3 pounds over 3 weeks. Starting to push into that next sort of level. Typically, weighed myself today was quite low for, say I had an eating week, which had one super low calorie day and a fasting day, but that's seemingly what works. Something I've done, which I've seen a lot of stuff about recently, is talking about your steps. It's talking about, remember when I was saying cardio's the enemy? Apparently they don't consider steps, walking, to be cardio. So steps are important now. It's all right. We've saved cardio by saying you don't have to run anywhere, you can just walk. But then there's these step ranges. So the reason they tell you to do 10,000 steps a day is because that's kind of like a good, solid base would put you at average. And then it goes up. So 12,000 step range is above average. 15,000 steps is where the real money is, apparently, where you're really going to start to see those changes and things. And then if you haven't naturally 15,000 and over, you are in a higher category. So I was like, right, okay, so simple, easy, elegant, need to start doing 15,000 steps a day. Now then, 15,000 steps a day, some days I do that anyway, just naturally. Some days when you do 2 trips to school, 2 dog walks, a run, or 2, 15,000 steps it's doable. Consistently as well. Other days, no trip to school, one dog walk if you're lucky. No runs. Yeah, those are the days where 15,000 steps is like, no chance. So those are the days that I've sort of basically been focusing on and just saying 15,000 steps or nothing. Did over 20,000 steps on Saturday. The only day that is exempt is Sunday. Sunday is my rest day and will probably forever be a rest day. Have I noticed a difference? Yeah, I'm doing 15,000 steps a day minimum. Have I really noticed a difference? I have, actually, in the weirdest possible way. There's been a body shape change, which initially I thought was some sort of fluke, and in actual fact, I think might be a little more permanent than I'd maybe expected. So that's interesting. Something that came up. I was listening to a podcast. Now then, I don't know for definitely, I don't know definitely, or for definite, who it was with or who it was that said it. I've been racking my brains all day, and I think that it may have been Walton Goggins on Dak Shepard's podcast, which I think is Armchair Expert, which I've only just started getting into. I've listened to 3 episodes so far. And the question was, how have you managed to stay married for so many years? How have you managed to stay in a relationship for so many years? And there was all this, the standard communication. And forgive me if I'm misquoting this and it's the wrong person. So I'm trying my best to remember here. So it could be wrong. But they'd said, also, I use the say the third thing rule. And I was like, is this a thing? I don't know this one. And they were like, what's that? Now, when you're like having a conversation with your wife and you have that initial thing that pops into your head and you say it, that's the thing that can often get you into trouble. Because you never thought about it, you didn't think what you were saying, and you just said it. You blurted it out. And often, the third thing isn't much better. It's just a rehashing of the first thing. So, if you decide to scrap those two and then go with like the third thing that comes to your mind, you know that it's had that little bit more thought put into it. And in actual fact, when you look back, you go, that was the right option. Of the three options I had, first was a silly thing to say, second wasn't much better, but the third had some actual thought put into it. I'm like, that's a fascinating principle. That's a fascinating idea. That's interesting. I have a tendency to just blurt stuff out. I've always been afflicted with it. So I was like, do you know something? I'm going to give this a try. This sounds really interesting to me, and I'm very interested. I'm going to give it a try. So, like, over the next few days, like, Leanne would send me a message, and she'd be like, she'd say something. I'd be like, I'd start writing, like, oh, right, okay. And I'm like, okay, now let's think about it. What could we say instead? Right, fine, whatever. And I'm like, all right, okay, sounds snarky, and right, fine, whatever also sounds a bit snarky, a bit dismissive, and I don't mean either of those things. What I mean is, that sounds great. So I would write, cool, that sounds great, and send that. More positive. Put a lighter spin on it. I'd sent it. I felt good about myself. Next time something comes up, she says something to me, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's not it. So retract and try again, and then go, look, put a positive spin on it. Try something different for once. Jesus, is that the rain? Wow, I think there's a storm going on. It sounds mental out there. So, I start using this method. Say the third thing. And I'm liking it. It's working. I'm being more positive about stuff. I'm being what I consider to be more supportive. I'm being more like, oh yeah, that sounds great. It's no skin off my nose in a lot of ways, because I'm just, yeah, fine, whatever, is never really what people want, versus, oh no, that sounds really good. Then I'm like, what if I start implementing this in other areas of my life? For example, what if I was to say, somebody at work says to me, oh, is there any chance you can look at this? And I'm like, I am so swamped right now. The answer is basically no. That doesn't really help anybody, does it? But it doesn't change the fact that I am quite swamped right now. So maybe there's a different tact. So, okay, let's think about it again. Okay. Is there a way that you can look at it? Okay, second draft, not great. Okay, let's try again. So we've had no sod off, I'm busy. We've got any chance you can look at it yourself? Presumably the person would have done that anyway. Okay, let's try this. I'm a little bit busy at the moment. I can look at this in a little while. Before then, can you have a look and see if this, and this tie in? That's better. That's a better way of putting it. So you send that, and the person comes back and they're like, do you know something? I think I found what it was, and I've done it myself. And you're like, interesting. So I've been implementing this new rule for about a week at this point in time. And honestly, the benefits have been off the charts. So much so that I ended up in a situation on Friday. I was in a meeting and somebody said to me, there was a situation from a week ago. It was a particular way. I'm really sorry about that. However, next week it'll be different. My initial response would have been to blurt out, I don't have time for that. That's not in my scope of time over the course of the next week. I physically don't have the time for it. I'm like, that's not helpful. What I could say is, look, right now at this moment in time, the best thing to do is to just put that over there and we'll do it all as one thing and hope that it gets hit in the way that we're hoping. I was like, that's also not helpful because I know that's not going to be the case. So it's pointless saying that. Okay? So, what I ended up saying without thinking about it was, that sounds great. It doesn't sound great. I said, that's brilliant. As long as I know what's going on, I can plan for it, I can arrange it properly, and I can make sure that when it comes to it, I'm ready, the work's ready, the situation's ready, and we can all move forward together. And I walked away from that situation like, fuck me, this system is really working. Because what I wanted to say was, the fuck you are. So I made a little note of it because I was like, this is obviously it's not mine. I didn't come up with this. I'm just passing information on because I think that it's a very interesting philosophy. Say the third thing. You may be listening to this right now going, that's what normal people do. Normal people don't tell everyone to just fuck off. If that's the case, maybe this wasn't for you. Odd to the zero Guinness. I bit the inside of my cheek coming home from work today. And at the time, I was like, yeah, not ideal to bite the inside of your cheek, but I do it all the time, which is a long story. And when I usually do it, it's freaking painful, like really, really painful. When I did it today, I was like, that one wasn't that bad. I honestly think I must have caught it in the worst possible place because it is so annoying right now. Speaking of things that are really annoying, you like that segue. I was made aware that it was the summer fair. This is probably something like the fourth year in a row that I've brought up the summer fair on the podcast. I can't stand the summer or winter fair. And by this point, I'm sure we know why. It is straight up a scam. Part of me wonders if people don't know that or if they choose to ignore it. But my youngest daughter says, "Oh, Daddy, it's the fair after school today." I went, "Oh, yeah." She said, "Can we go?" I said, "Can we fucking not?" Obviously, that's not what I said. I said, "Oh." And then I just kind of hoped she'd forgotten by the time I finished awing about it. Sent her off into school going, "Oh, fuck's sake, I know that I'm going to have to deal with that shit after school." And that is absolutely what happened, because they make sure to keep the children in nice and long, keep them in extra, make sure all the parents are there, give them all the parents nice, and make sure all the ones, the ones that turn up late, make sure they're there as well. Keep the children in, get them riled up, ready for the fair. Oh, yeah, here we go. Rev your engines. Bruh. And then release 200 rabid children who will all have to pass the fair because all the parents are there. And then you've got children like, "Are you going to the fair?" "I'm going to the fair." "Oh, I have to go to the fair." Why is it that we're supposed to ignore the fact that 90% of the stuff that's at the fair, that your tombola, your raffle, your cake stall, 95% of that stuff has been quote unquote donated by people at the school, by parents at the school, which is then sold back to you. You could not. Here's the thing. If the school came to us and said, "Look, we're a bit short on cash. We pay for certain school trips when people can't afford to pay for school trips. And, we could do a fair or this, fun for the kids. Or everyone can stump up a tenner." I'd give you a tenner right there and then. Just purely so I don't have to do the song and dance. Because here's the other thing. A few years ago, I went to summer and a winter fair. Summer fair, and this is where the problem started. I donated a metric shit ton of cakes, muffins, biscuits, buns, the absolute works. And what turned out was my donations were the best donations. That is not me blowing my trumpet or horn or whatever. Hands down, the best. And there was a lot of them. My children were not made aware of this donation in any way, shape or form, which irked me somewhat. The school, in their infinite wisdom, decided that because these were the best cakes, buns, muffins and whatever, they would roll them out first, get the good stuff out first to draw people in, and by the time me and my children get to the cake stall, all the good stuff is gone, i.e. all the stuff I donated. I am now in a situation where I am buying some shit fairy buns at 50p a go, going, just run this scam past me again. Now, in those days, there'd be some fun and games, and there'd be, you might get a face paint or a tattoo or something like that. Not an actual tattoo, like a transfer tattoo thing. This is something that was on offer. And there were games, and there was this, that, the other. And whether you got a nice cake or not, you still had a bit of fun. And there you go. Fun! as the years have worn on, the fun seems to have managed to find its way out of the fair, and instead what we've ended up with is some shit games, some shit stalls, you having your own stuff sold back to you, and the cakes that you donated are, well, all the good ones are gone before you get there, that's for fucking sure. And ultimately, the school get a massive pot of money for very little effort. It's a scam. And I know, humbug, yes. Charity starts in the old me casa, etc., etc. But if we cut all the bullshit and they were like, look, do you fancy making a donation so we don't have to do the Dog and Pony show? I'd be like, there's a tenner. I'll happily give you a tenner so I don't have to pretend like I'm not getting absolutely shafted in this deal. That was the week that was. Next week will be interesting. What could he possibly be alluding to? Well, TV wise, we've just been watching The Blacklist. We've watched the second to last episode this evening of series 2. There's a lot going on. Some people might say too much. I feel like at this point in time, they maybe felt like they were losing people a little bit through the series. So I feel like they've now done let's run 3 stories at the same time, because that'll bring people in. Whereas now you just spend your time going, 3 different stories going on. Cool. Which one would you like me to follow? Something happened in the episode I was watching this evening that I'd forgotten was going on because there was so much other stuff going on in the same episode. It's still, still fine, still watchable, still whatever, but now we've kind of jumped the shark and then jumped the pony and then jumped the killer whale kind of TV. It's weird. I wanted to mention a movie which I've talked about many times before, but just want to shout out a movie. I watched Nobody last week over a few days on the treadmill. That film is fucking awesome. I love it. I'm very much a fan of the first John Wick film. I feel that the John Wick films, the franchise as a whole, has just gone downhill from the first one. The first one was awesome, and if they'd have left it like that, I'd have been fine. But they didn't, and they've basically done what they do with anything that's successful these days. They've just basically beaten it to death. They are getting to the point now where they're basically unwatchable. But Nobody, on the other hand, it's just one film. I was going to say Saul Goodman, which obviously it is Saul Goodman, but I don't. Bob Odenkirk being an absolute badass, but they did John Wick with comedy. And it's all the same team of people, and it's all very good and it's very enjoyable. However, they are making a second one, which it's one of those things, isn't it? You can always hope it's going to be good, but you already know it's not going to be. Just leave things alone. Jesus. I watched Civil War. And I don't know if that was a good idea or not. It was a good film, don't get me wrong. It was an enjoyable film. It was a good watch. It sort of flew by in a lot of ways. The one thing I felt was missing from the film was like the lore behind it. Like, nothing told you what the situation was. Nothing told you what the setup was. There's an American Civil War now. You've got these two factions. Nobody tells you which side is which. You've got the president, played by Nick Offerman, and then you've basically got Kirsten Dunst and the guy who played Pablo Escobar in Narcos, and a girl who I don't know if I've ever seen her in anything, and Kirsten Dunst, who I have never forgiven for her role in the Spider-Man franchise. Just kind of that, really. So you don't know which the two factions are. You've got the president, who is definitely not based on anybody. And the press are, for some reason, seen as this like, oh, you're bulletproof and you can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. And we, as these two warring factions, will just carry on around you and invite you into our gunfights and things. It was really good. It was a really good film. A little too on the nose, because I think from the outside, if you look at America as it is now, I think you probably feel that could happen any day. Any moment of any day, you feel like that could happen. And then, as a country that's not America, you would just probably watch it like some kind of reality TV show. There were some very strange aspects about the film, like you've got this whole... It was very much like a boots on the ground war, when obviously we're aware that America have like these massive military weaponry, and you know they've got planes for a start, helicopters, and things like that. And it's like, why is it so focused on like the soldiers on the ground when they've got such high-tech weaponry? But then, was there an agreement to not use any of that sort of stuff? Because ultimately, they've got nuclear weapons, so presumably they could just do that. But then, you don't want to blow up your own country, so is it some sort of unwritten rule? There were some bits that are a little bit emotional. There was a guy who, I'll always say, guy from Breaking Bad. There's a lot of Breaking Bad today. Jesse, I want to say. It's a P. Plemons? Where is IMDb? IMDb. It's here. It's right here. What I'm looking for. Civil War. Your name is Spider-Man. Huh. Okay. So, because he was in a very small... no. Okay. Oh. I mean, this is absolute podcast gold. Why? You see, I was just about to say, and this is when we find out that I was right. Jesse Plemons. Yeah, that's him. Right, there we go. By this point in time, anybody that knows who that is will have known who I was referring to. Everybody talked about the fact that he turns up, he's in it for like 5 minutes and steals the show. And I fully agree. I absolutely agree. The man does terrifying well, is what I'll say on that. Like he was hands down one of the worst characters in Breaking Bad, but not worse, bad as in just the worst. He was like some sort of sociopath. It was awful, but great acting. So, the end of the film was, I kind of want to say anticlimactic, but I think that was the point. I think the point was, after all this, there's your ending. There were a couple of things I was a bit like, really? But if you end up seeing it, or if you've already seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. But it was just a little bit too real, I think, is the problem. Very good film. I recommend it. It's definitely one that you can put on, watch, go, and just walk away from and be like, that was fine. Right. Computer games. Let's talk about the big boys. I finished Rise of Ronin, a game I got for Christmas. It, at time of recording, is July. So there you go. Well over 100 hours worth of game. I missed so much, which unfortunately is a downside to the game because you just can't unlock all the missions. There's some sort of weird, you have to be friends with this person. Okay, how'd you get friends with them? Oh, you have to do a mission for them. Okay, how'd you do a mission for them? Oh, you haven't unlocked that mission. Okay, why? Because you're not friends with them. Oh, okay. That seems like you've gone round in a circle. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a really, really good game. I feel that they've done really well with it. I feel like it's a game that just went from strength to strength to strength. I wish I'd put more time in. I wish I'd have played it in a shorter space of time. But honestly, I think I was playing it like 1 day a week for like an hour. There were points in time where I was playing it more, but it was just because of other things, namely a game we'll talk about in a bit. I could only put so much into it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm really glad it's a game that I played. I bought, no surprises there, a game from the Steam sale called Chorus. Basic space shooter. You've got a ship, you fly around, you shoot stuff. I love games like that. However, there is one universal thing throughout all games like that. Nobody knows how to make them. Because I played one a little while ago, it was great, I was loving it, I was having a whale of a time. Then it got too hard, and that was the end of that game for me. I played one in VR. Great, loved it, played it. got to a point and I was like, oh, this game is way too hard. And when you play a game like that that's too hard, and then in VR, you very quickly go, I can't play this. So nobody knows how to make these games, but I had high hopes. So it starts out and it's like, oh, you've got the ship and you can move it like this. Okay, that's cool. And you can move it like this. Okay, that's cool. And you can do these little things, and like you can do like a barrel roll and stuff in space. You can shoot with guns, and now you've got a laser. All the staples are there. But then they say, oh, now you've got a new ship. This is like a ship that's attuned to you, and you've got these special abilities, and that means that you and the ship can do like a mini teleport, and you can drift in a spaceship. And we're going to give you all these abilities, but then we're going to put you in these really tight, confined spaces, and then tell you to use these abilities, which are actually really, really difficult to use in these tight, confined spaces. This is the point where I will remind you, I said this was a game set in space, and you are a spaceship. It's probably, the clue's in the name. There's a lot of space in space. Not in this game. No, they like you in nice, tight corridors to do, drifting. I very quickly realised that this might not have been the game for me, because they gave you all these tools and then put all of these confinements around using them, and then said, now have at it. And I went, I can't. One of those that I work on the principle I will go back to, but that was the same for a multitude of games I've played recently that I've not gone back to. I traded in a lot of computer games. Where's it going with this? I'll tell you. A lot of them were PS4 games. Games that I looked at and I was like, yes, they're on my shelf, but let's face it, I'm probably never going to play them, because I don't play any of the stuff I've got anyway. So I took those games, added a PS5 game that I will never go back to because it was garbage, and I'm trying to think what the other game was. A game that I'd finished and probably wouldn't play again. Let's just put it like that. I then paid £4 and I bought myself Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now then, a few caveats here. One, I've just played a samurai game. Assassin's Creed Shadows is set in Japan. You play as a samurai or a ninja, or both. Okay, a little bit too close in that sense, but I was assured it was going to be different, so we'll be all good. Game starts, a million billion cutscenes, and then we're into the game. No, wait, we're going to need another cutscene. Okay, now we're into the game. No, we need a 10-minute cutscene, and then you can play a little bit of the game for a little bit until there's time for a cutscene, or until you have to follow somebody for absolutely no reason. Ubisoft, in their infinite wisdom, have decided, hey, do you remember that climbing mechanic that everybody fucking hated? The up-down climbing mechanic where you need a button to climb up and a button to climb down, and everybody fucking hated it. Yeah, let's bring that back, because that's fucking garbage, isn't it? Then, what else do people not like? Oh, when you put the fighting buttons as the shoulder buttons, if it was a shooter, great. But fighting on the shoulder buttons, no, that's not what people want. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, we're off to a flying start here. What if we make it really, really, really difficult to invert the controls? And basically give anybody that likes inverted controls the middle finger. How about that? Sounds great. Also, let's make it a standard Ubisoft waste of fucking time. Here's your objective. It's 9 miles away. And it will take you the amount of time to travel 9 miles. Good luck. That's Assassin's Creed Shadows, but it gets better. We've got this mechanic where you can do like investigation work. All right. And you can work out some clues, and those clues will lead you to where you need to be. Oh, that sounds fun. You can turn this feature off. However, if you do, you'll be ruining your entire gaming experience. Oh, I probably shouldn't do that then. Right, here we go. I'm off out into the world. I'm off to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. You need to find this person to speak to. Okay, I'm going to do that. How? Well, they're in this area, and they're also in this area. Okay, that's 2 completely different places. So how is that possible? Look for outside stalls. Ah, yes, I know exactly what you mean. I'll head there now. Yeah, they're not there. So after 2 days of this, I went, do you know what? I don't care about missing out on some of the gaming experience. I'm going to turn this fucking option off. Are you really sure you want to do that? Yes. You'll lose some parts of the game. I don't fucking care at this point in time. Just fucking do it. Oh, well, now we're going to have to reload the game. Are you really sure you want to do this? Yes, I'm fucking sure. Fine. I'll reload the game. Now, and I get it. You're now thinking that I don't like it. I don't like any of that. I like the rest. You know, the bit where you can just play the game. I played the samurai guy right at the start of the game. Haven't played as him since. I've been the lady ninja ever since. And it's fine. When it lets you play the game, it's fine. Yep, there you go. The game that basically saved Ubisoft from whatever the hell was going on with them is fine. And a friend of mine keeps telling me my least favourite phrase in computer games. It gets better the more you play. Do you know what? How about it's good when I play? Somebody told me a game that I may or may not have traded in recently gets better the more you play. In fact, it gets great the more you play. I put something like 10 hours into that game, and spoilers, it never once got good or even remotely close to great. If I've given you 10 hours of my time and you've given me absolutely fuck all in return, yeah, you're getting traded in, mate. I will continue to play Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I work on the principle that at some point it might get good. When that might be, who knows? However, a new challenger has entered the ring. Yes, indeed. And that new challenger is a game I never, ever thought I would hear myself saying that I am playing. I, like an idiot, have decided, yes, I too can do Elden Ring, because the internet tells me that that's a thing. If you can't do it, you just need to level up. Well, that's such bullshit, but hey, I'm a dreamer, and I'm full of hope. Yes, like an idiot, I bought Elden Ring. A few caveats: I have been solely, see what I did there, following a walkthrough, a video walkthrough. I've been informed by some people that this is not the way you play games like this, and my response was, this is the way I play games like this, because without something like a guide of some description, I would have absolutely no chance of playing this game. It's a game I want to play. It's a game I want to be able to do. I am prepared to give a certain amount of time to this game and the process, but fuck me, it is, honestly, it is, it's just off the charts. It's just insane, the sort of stuff that it's like, okay, go here and pick this up. Okay, I can do that because you've told me to. How did you know to do that? Somebody was saying to me today, oh, you can't use a walkthrough. No. You've just got to, wander around until you find things. And I'm like, okay, find what? Well, if you decided you wanted a broadsword, you would look up where to find the best broadsword. It's like, okay, when I'm using a guide and I'm playing the game, I still get lost. So, how do I get around that? People who play Souls-like games don't understand people that don't play them because we're the weird ones. Whereas in actual fact, if you can understand any part of what's going on, you are a higher powered being. Finally, I once again finished Into the Radius 2. I've got probably all the mods at this point in time. That's not true. There's millions of them, but I've got quite a few. I think it's probably time to take a break. I think I might find something that I can play in VR that's just more of a pick up, put down. Like a Beat Saber, Pistol Whip kind of thing. I imagine Pistol Whip's had about 50 updates since I last played it. And maybe move to a bit more of a flat gaming summer, possibly. I know Into the Radius 2 isn't getting any sort of update until autumn, so maybe it's time to give it a break. Or maybe it's time to put an even bigger mod on and really kick that puppy up a notch. There's 2 games I want to look at modding. So maybe I'll look at doing that and play those instead. We shall see. That is the podcast for this week. Thank you very much for listening, watching, and being here. And I will catch you next time. So you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening, big thank you for being here. Before you leave us, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment if you haven't already. Even if you've done one, maybe you could look at doing another one. If you've done none, you could just pick one. Or don't. Your call. If you want to be that way. Check out the website. How about that? Is that one okay? Check out the website. Yeah, cookiecast.com. There we have social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of CookieCast.